It is a Lotto's Deep Dive with thanks to our good friends Jezza and Alan, the team at Unique Wrought Iron, where thousands of Aussies go each and every week, you're on Lotto, to make improvements to their home.
Yeah, we're discussing rivalries today. Two huge games. Essendon play Carlton and West Coast play Fremantle. So I want to take a look at the history of the clubs and some of their big battles that they've had. And let's take a look at Essendon and Carlton. It's the 250th clash between these two clubs. So they've played 249 times. 118 wins to the Bombers, 125 wins to Carlton, 6 draws in that, 16 premierships each, and the last grand final they played was in 1993 where the Bombers won quite convincingly. That day, it was tough, it was rough. Dean Wallace, I'll never forget the hit of his on Milhana. He just fixed up Milhana that day. So we want to take a look at the last time these two teams played, and there was Dean Wallace. Kickett was dropped. Dean Wallace was brought in, who was a favourite of Kevin Sheedy. And Hannah was not the same after that. And it was a real turning point. Wallace kicking a goal after that moment. Carlton fans will never forget Dean Wallace. But it was Michael Long on that day. I think it's the greatest individual game Longy played for the Bombers. He had 33 disposals, 8 marks, 2 goals, and won the Norm Smith medal. And these highlights are as good as any highlights you'll see from an individual on a day. So Longy was a special player. Obviously did his knee not after that and probably lost a bit of his agility and mobility. But Brownie, have a look at some of these highlights. Like, he was just always thinking one step ahead. He was probably the teammate I enjoyed playing with the most. He was unselfish. He did. It
was a hot day too.
Oh,
that day,
yeah,
wasn't it?
like some of these moments. And the way he put the ball out in front of Gavin Wanganeen was just so special. And watch this pass. Takes on Mackay, too quick for him. And watch the way he balanced himself and just put it out in front of Gavin Wanganeen. This guy was an absolute superstar. Damo, but you've...
Yeah, we saw Stephen Silvani in that early part of the footage there with Michael Long. He still reckons he touched that, TJ. But go back 5 years down the track from that 1993 year. 1998, round 17, your famous rival, Lotto. You're playing on Sauce this day. You can see the scores. You can see the time left. The Mercedes brings it in. Sauce takes what we thought was a match-tying mark. He then plays on behind the line, gives it straight back to Dean Rice, past Dean Rice, and then Scotty Lucas picks up, kicks the goal, and the Bombers win a famous game.
Oh, he was devastated. It took him a long, long time to get over that one. Well, Sauce, I suppose he was trying to win the game, but look how far back he kicked it. Scotty Lucas couldn't believe his luck, and when you see it go back over your head, that certainly hurts as a full-back, Kano. But we've also, Nath, we've seen some massive marks, and unfortunately, Essendon were on the end of a few bad ones.
There's some huge marks. Matty Lappin on top of Matty Allen. Matty Allen was one of the great aerialists himself. Goes in long, and look at that from Matty Lappin. And that sideways movement we've seen Gary Ablett, Warwick Kappa get, that was a massive, massive mark by Matty Lappin. And he was a brilliant half-back flanker, but he also played forward as well. That is absolutely huge. And the other mark is Andrew Walker, that we'll get to in a minute. Yeah. That is a huge mark. Andrew Walker up against Jake Carlisle. Have a look at this one. This is as high as you get. That is called the double lifter. He got up there, and then Carlisle gives him the double lifter, and he gets up that little bit higher. But this is a monumental mark.
Haven't had many genuine hangers this year, have we?
No. Liam Ryan took one early in the season, but he missed more than he took in the same game.
Yeah, nothing like that. That is an absolute hanger. 2 rippers. Well, I'm going to go way back to 1979 and TJ's mate, Timmy Watson. In the Panasonic Cup, it was called...
Can I say on the record, Tim was one of my favourite players to watch.
He doesn't say the same about you when he watches the news. But let's have a look at the vision, because look at this. It's a wet, muddy day. You don't get days like this anymore. A young Tim Watson jumping over and hurdling his Carlton opponents and finishing into an open goal. What a game that was. Crowds there in the pre-season. Geez, he looks like Job there as well. And Mark Murphy, I mean, he's been under the pump this year, but he's been a genuine great of Carlton coming up for game number 300 in the wet. Look at the time there. Big goal from the former skipper from the Blues.
And TJ, the amazing thing about these games, I know Murphy did it that day, doesn't matter where they are on the ladder, upsets are everywhere. I reckon Brendan Bolton got sacked off the back of a Essendon Carlton game. And so, yeah, it could be anyone's game today.
You know, you always talk about the rivalries, Collingwood-Carlton, Collingwood-Melbourne, Collingwood-everyone.
Port Adelaide and the Crows.
Oh, seriously. But you could actually mount an argument for this one being the rivalry of the competition, couldn't you? Maybe not. All right, now I want to go back to 1997, and this is yet another chapter in that rivalry, and it was quite a controversial one. You'll see Greg Williams here with umpire Andrew Coates, and he pushes him away. Now, as a result of that, it ended up in court. It was the biggest story for weeks, and he got 9 matches as a result of that. And I don't know, you look at it now, given what we saw maybe last week.
With Lachie Neal.
Yeah, and you think to yourself, 9 weeks, he was stiff.
He was. On that day, TJ, he and Sean Denham used to go toe-to-toe. I'm talking toe-to-toe as in like it was, uppercuts, underpacks. And I think that's what infuriated him early, and the tagging nature of what Shawnee Denham was doing him at those days where he was winning Brownlows.
Another Carlton great was Bruce Dool. And TJ, as you know, he never spoke to the media and you never touched his headband. But Tony Bahagia didn't listen to that second one and he ripped it off at Waverley Park here, I think it was, and he threw it into the crowd. And that was one way of getting Bruce Dool, the normally unflappable Bruce Dool brownie, quite worked up.
He was worked up that day. And have a look at that. I think that was Jimmy Buckley going up there.
That was, I think, yeah.
The other game is West Coast Fremantle played today. Big game for the Fremantle Dockers because their history is not good against the West Coast Eagles. We see it, 31 wins for the Eagles, 20 for the Dockers. But look at this, it's a 10-game streak for West Coast over the Fremantle Dockers. So they've been bullied for too long. Today's the day to go up and I think beat the West Coast Eagles. 4 medals for Hazelby and some champions, Judd, Pavlich, obviously Shannon Hearn, Josh Kennedy and Mickey Barlow won 3 as well. But
we all love when it gets heated, Lord Oak. We all love when it gets heated. Have a look at some of the best derby brawls. And this is Pav up against Big Gardy Gardner. Big Gardy. I don't think I'd want to fight Big Gardy. Having a look at that one. And then Dale Kickett, as we know, threw a couple of haymakers. But this was back when... This is scary stuff, this sort of stuff. These are huge. And the crowd love it. The crowd get into it. But it's a good thing. It's probably not in our game anymore.
But it's seriously, it's the games we remember. I know Essendon, Hawthorn, some of those things that went on. Fremantle, we hated what Gaff did to Andrew Brayshaw, but a bit of that stuff's okay every now and then.
Some big moments in these games as well. We'll start with McFarlane. He took the mark of the year. Let's start with Daniel Kerr, actually. This is one of the best goals I've ever seen. If you can get the ball across half-back, take 4, 5, 6 bounces. Bounces with his left hand as well, which is interesting from Daniel Kerr. Puts on the afterburners with Grover, I think it is, chasing him. Settles himself and finishes. That one goal of the year in 2003. What a player Daniel Kerr was. And McFarlane here taking mark of the year as well in a derby. So some big moments in these games.
I tell you what, you could really mount an argument for saying that the Fremantle West Coast games is the rivalry. Of the,
TJ, you could actually.
Hey, Damo, you're all over this. What do you think is the biggest rivalry in the game?
Look, until Adelaide dropped off, I thought it was the showdown. And because Fremantle has lost the last 10 of the Western, I reckon it's up for grabs. The Western Bulldogs, GWS, is still in the conversation.
No, I think Collingwood-Carlton, you can't actually go past that.
You can, TJ, because of the lack of form the clubs have had.
You can't, Damo.
You can.
Hawthorn Geelong were up there for a while as well.
Yeah. It's up for grabs right now. If a club and 2 clubs want to take it over, I reckon it's like the titles to be had.